0, 1. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Reggie Banks. We appreciate that you joining us inside the locker room with Reggie Banks. We thank you for the support. Always like, comment, and subscribe. Support the channel, guys. Thank you for your support. All right, let's get into it. Today we're going to play a little game. You can call this game multiple things actually, but today we're gonna take a look into the future. Try to see if we can kind of take information that we know today in the present day and apply it to things that may happen further down the road. Okay, so it was a series of guys, right? It's a handful of guys where I was thinking about this pertaining to this question, and yeah. So I have a handful of guys that I thought about this for a good amount of time. I went into deep thought about it, So the game that we're playing, like I said, we're going to try to see and figure out what lies ahead for these guys and these franchises. Okay? So, first on the list, right? First on the list, I think would have to be Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Man, it's crazy. Just saying his name out loud, it does something to me, right? Not because of the off-field thing, the off-field allegations and things of that nature. But if you have been an NFL fan, a person who knows sports, a person who just watches sports in general, have you ever seen a guy fall faster from grace? Like ever. And one thing that comes to mind about Deshaun Watson that is very unique, the situation, right? Most guys that fall off a cliff, right? Most guys that fall off a cliff, it happens because of something, some type of reason. It can be, most of the time, it's because of injury. Now, you can explain a guy having an ACL, tearing his Achilles tendon, ripping his shoulder off the bone. Those are valid reasons of why guys may be at the top of production, gets injured, and all of a sudden they come back and it's not even the same, right? Or you can even attribute old age, right? You can even say old age, father time is another reason. But to see a guy that is not old, is still relatively young, right? Whom we have seen do it at the top. He was once in the NFL, Deshaun Watson was the cream of the crop. He was a top 3 quarterback. You can say that. Saying that today sounds insane. But at one point in time, Deshaun Watson, there's maybe only 2 or 3 guys that you would rather start your franchise with. And now we're talking about what lies ahead? What's in his future? And then I think when you're talking about Deshaun Watson, you have to involve the Cleveland Browns, right? And it's a crazy situation right now. And this situation has to be the worst situation in the NFL by a mile, right? You have Deshaun Watson, a guy that had to battle with allegations and off the field problems, right? Not only the Cleveland Browns were not even in the market for the Deshaun Watson, which is crazy, right? The coaches like Stefanski, they wasn't really in on Deshaun. You know the main reason why Deshaun Watson is in Cleveland? It's because of their bonehead owner, Mr. Haslam. Like, what are you doing? And not only do you go after Deshaun, but you just give him the keys to the bank. You tell this man with a questionable off the field issue, and we're not talking about, I shouldn't have said issue, issues, as in plural, multiple. You sign him to a fully guaranteed contract. It's never been done in the NFL. It's never been done. But you choose to do it with this type of guy. Insane. And Cleveland is one of those franchises that we would put in the group of dysfunctional. They are a dysfunctional franchise. It's just that simple. There's a handful of franchises in the NFL right now that you would be like, don't really want to go there. Don't really want to coach there. Decision making is pretty crazy. Dysfunctional team, dysfunctional franchise, questionable decisions. That was a questionable decision at best to sign Deshaun Watson to a fully guaranteed contract. Okay? And years before that, you have a guy like Baker Mayfield. Well, everything was pretty much blamed on Baker. Let's just be honest. That whole situation went down south fast. And it wasn't Baker's fault. As we see, Baker has since moved on to another franchise, another system, other coaches, and he's having success. So it never was Baker. And at the time when it was going on, I'm like, man, Baker's a competitor. What is going on? But as we see, franchises mean a lot. It can mean the world to a player as far as giving him the foundation to be successful in the league. If a rookie comes in or a young player comes to your system, if that if that franchise has a strong foundation, they will be all right. It's been proven. But you put good guys in dysfunctional situations, it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well. And we've seen that with Baker Mayfield. But when I look at Deshaun Watson, I just see a guy that, man, what happened? Like, what happened? This guy he's a shell. When they say a shell of his former self, man, I mean, I look in his eyes and I don't see the same person. You know, when you always have the outlook of things going positively, right? You can just tell. Like his mannerisms on the field, once he throws a ball, he's not really, you know, when a quarterback throws a ball, and you don't even have to see where he's throwing it, but you can see his body language. You can see the way that he makes his steps. You can see the way that he processes the defense, and he makes that throw with positive. Like, he's positive. You can see that. When Deshaun steps into a throw, he doesn't really know whether it's going to be incomplete, interception. He doesn't believe in himself. And if you was looking at Sunday's game with Cleveland against the Redskins, the Commanders, against the Commanders, he fumbled the ball. He was basically scrambling, and he has no pocket awareness. Like, he just runs into defensive linemen. I don't get it. This is the same kid that would, as soon as he broke the pocket, you would hold your breath. Not now. He's like, he has no awareness of what he's doing. He runs right into the defensive lineman, fumbles the ball. The Commanders recover the fumble. He's on his knees. Bobby Wagner is right there on his knees. Deshaun is just shaking his head, is like, oh, this is the worst. And Bobby agrees. Bobby is sitting there bobbing his head with him. It makes no sense. This kid is 29. We're 29. As a quarterback, he's in his prime right now. I'm talking about it's not, when he steps back, it's not a question. Things are going to most likely go bad. And it's just been a funky situation in Cleveland. The coach is pretty much lying to the media because he has to, you know. Cleveland is in a horrible decision. A horrible situation. If you look down the line, Cleveland's not going to cut him. The contract. Over the next 2 years, I don't have the contract numbers in front of me, but I can bet my bottom dollar that his cap hit is going to be over $40 million. And if you cut him, it's not going to be good for the franchise. So you can say at least for the next 2 years, you got to do something. You can't bench him. You can't bench him. But what is the outlook? And I say this sometimes, and people think that I'm crazy. When I say, once the opportunity with the Cleveland Browns is over for Deshaun Watson, if he does not change something about his game, we will probably never see Deshaun Watson ever again. And then you'll be like, Reggie, what are you talking about? People get second chances, third chances. He could be a backup. Yeah, those people, their production speaks for itself. Okay? Like Michael Vick. He got in trouble, right? Went to jail, comes back, he gets an opportunity. You know why? Because he still could produce. When your production outweighs your problems, hey, you always will find a place. But the moment that your production drops off to a point, you're not usable anymore. You become expendable. I can find someone else at a lower cost than you are to give me those type of results. Or probably give me better, most likely, right? And then the Cleveland Browns, you can just tell just by the way that they function. Last year they had Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson gets hurt. Joe Flacco comes in. Things change. And I think that was the moment. I think that was the eye-opening moment for all NFL fans. Probably their coach, their owner, will hold the hell up. What is going on? How can 38-year-old Joe Flacco take control of our offense and it looks completely different? And now we're a playoff team. Like that, it's insane. When you think about it, it's insane. So that is where the Cleveland Browns are right now. They got rid of Joe Flacco because they didn't want any controversy coming into this season or during this season. Can you imagine if Joe Flacco was still on the roster with Deshaun Watson? There would be an uprising in Ohio. You hear me? Like, something would have to happen. But now that you have Deshaun and you really don't have really a valuable backup to put in, that's not really anything. What are you going to do? Go with Deshaun, right? So this is personally where I think. You ask me the question, what do I think lies ahead for Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns? As far as Deshaun Watson, I think Deshaun Watson has at most 2 more years with the Cleveland Browns. If he doesn't change anything, it will be the last time that you see this man playing on an NFL team. Mark my words. As far as the Cleveland Browns, I feel they have players. They have all pros on their team. They have players that can change their situation. But it's just some franchises, man, that don't make good decisions and they never get it right. And I don't see Cleveland getting it right, you know? So I think the years ahead, it's not going to be good for Cleveland. All right? So moving on to the next, and leaving from the Cleveland Browns situations, we're going to go to the situation in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, and the Colts, right? So, Anthony Richardson, if you ask me what do I think of Anthony Richardson, I would ask you, have you ever ridden a roller coaster at Six Flags? Because I feel, being a fan of his, that's pretty much how you would feel. It's an up and down roller coaster. Those ups can be high and those downs can be so low. To see the kid operate in the first the first couple of years, this is my assessment of the guy. Crazy athletic, big arm, just a lot of God-given talent. Yeah, he's raw. But when you see him make his mistakes, they're so bad, they're so low, where you be like, can that be fixed? Can that be fixed? Any quarterback coach that you ask, they'll tell you, most of the time, accuracy cannot be taught. That's something that you have or you don't have. And I can tell you positively, he doesn't have it. And he gets hurt a lot. He stays injured. And you can be like, oh, the running plays, and well, yeah, but this is football. This is football. And you are only as valuable as much as you stay out of the training room, right? So you have to stay on the field. Being hurt most of the time, it doesn't help your team, it doesn't help you. And I think especially with these rookie quarterbacks, these franchises get in this funky situation where it's like, okay, we put him out there, he's not ready, we take him out, or we let him sit, and it's like you're not taking the full advantage of drafting a rookie quarterback so early in the draft. They drafted Anthony Richardson, what, 10th? The 10th spot, I think. He got drafted with the 10th pick. You draft a quarterback at that spot, you're drafting because you think he's the franchise guy. You're drafting him because you believe in his potential. You're drafting him because you believe that he can be that guy, right? So we're not drafting you to put you on the bench and find out 4 or 5 years later, can you do it? No. We have to believe now. If I'm drafting you in the top 10 picks and you're my quarterback, I'm drafting you because I feel like, hey, with a little practice, a few games, this guy could get it. You know? I don't know. And so the Colts are in a position now. And what makes the situation worse about identifying the situation that you have with Anthony Richardson is having Joe Flacco on your roster, right? Now, it's a positive thing if you're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to get every little bit out your team, right? That makes sense. But when Joe Flacco is on your roster, you have a top 10 quarterback, right? Well, a top draft pick quarterback, right? And you're trying to figure out if this guy is the guy. He's hurt now. So just say the next couple games, Joe comes in and lights it up, and you get some W's, it's going to change very quick. The outlook for Anthony Richardson is going to change very quickly. So if you were to ask me, where do I think where that leads, just to be completely honest with you, I didn't like Anthony Richardson coming out that much in college. His intangibles, his athleticism, it popped off the screen, and I was like, wow. But when you watch a guy have to consistently make routine and disciplined plays and throwing the ball, making decisions, and they can't get it, it's glaring. So I don't think Anthony Richardson is going to work out. I think that he will end up being a backup. I think that he probably will not be on the Colts after his rookie contract. But that's a little too far in the future to look. But as far as right now, that's not the guy. Not to me. His lows are too low. He doesn't have enough consistent highs. And then he's not showing any real progression, right? And then the fourth point, and the most important point, he can't stay healthy. So I think those four ingredients that's not good for him. Okay, as far as the Colts are a pretty good ran franchise. I feel that they could bounce out of this depending on their, decisions with their roster and draft picks. I think that they could be all right. But who knows, All right. Next situation, as far as what lies ahead for this group of guys. My next situation coming up is Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. And we can include Robert Saleh in there. Okay? As far as Robert Saleh, we all know that he was fired today by the New York Giants. Aaron Rodgers is not doing well. Last game, he didn't have a very productive game. He didn't do very well. He does not look like Aaron Rodgers of old. This is another franchise that coincides with our first story with Deshaun, and it's not that bad, but it's kind of. The Jets fall into that category of what I said before. Dysfunctional franchises. Someone said dysfunctional franchises do dysfunctional things and make questionable decisions. The New York Jets have constantly been one of the worst franchises in the NFL. And it's not always been because of the talent on the roster. It's either the coach, it's either this, it's either the owner, Woody Johnson. Come on, man. It's just very questionable, the things that these teams do, okay? Now, you go get Aaron Rodgers. Don't get me wrong. That would entice a lot of people, right? But the fact that you bring him in and then you allow him, you hire Hackett, right? You hire his good friend Hackett as the offensive coordinator. Everybody knows that he's not a good offensive coordinator. Everyone knows that he can't call plays. We've seen his inability to call plays and handle the responsibility of an NFL team when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Everyone's seen it. When Sean Payton got to Denver, he even alluded to it. Now, you have to be bad for the coach that's coming in to talk shit about you, right? Yeah. So he's pretty bad. They bring him in, right? Now, the Jets hire Robert Saleh. And you know what? I like Robert Saleh. I do. I truly like him. I'm a defensive guy. I played defense when I played. He's a defensive guy. And I mean, you can't up until the point where Saleh came to up until the point where Saleh came to New York. If you were to judge Saleh on his defenses, oh, he's a hell of a defensive ball coach. We know that. And he's proven that. It's just crazy. Okay. Now the thing with Robert Saleh, it's not like we're talking about a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. Robert Saleh was named the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers in 2017. I think, yeah, 17. And he was under Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan and Saleh coached together with the Houston Texans before that. So from 2017 until 2021, Robert Saleh ran the defense for the San Francisco 49ers. Okay? And I'll just read off a few of their stats and accomplishments that they did while he was there at the helm of running the defense. During the first season, they were in the top 10 as total defenses. That's crazy. And this is Saleh's really his real first defensive coordinator job. Previously, he was a linebacker coach at Houston. He was a defensive quality control coach at Seattle. And I think he was a linebackers coach at Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars, previously, before coming to San Francisco. He comes to San Francisco, okay, shows progress as soon as he gets there, right? The season after, the 49ers defense ranked 6th in the league in forced turnovers, 2nd in total defense, 4th in sacks. And for the first time, it was the first time that the 49ers had finished in the top 10 in both scoring and yards per game. All right. Saleh helped lead that team to a 13-3 record. The defense was impeccable. You guys know. San Francisco defense was at the top. Like they were scary. And San Francisco went on to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And that following offseason, Robert Saleh got hired to the New York Jets on a 5-year contract to become their head coach. At that point, I thought that things were looking up for the New York Jets, right? But you can tell. You get to know a coach, and then you can kind of tell when a team starts making decisions, it's not really, you would look and be like, he wouldn't do that, right? So the Jets made a bunch of questionable decisions. And I think Woody Johnson is the outlier here, right? He's not really a meddler like Jerry Jones, but he is. His face is shown. He wants credit. And he does things. When he wants something, he would do it at the expense of his team's success. We've seen it before. So you fire Robert Saleh, but you keep Hackett. Why? Because he's Aaron Rodgers' best friend? And they sign Alan Lazard? Is he even in the top 30 of receivers? Like, what are we talking about here? And you can see the decision making it's because of Aaron Rodgers. A lot of guys there because of Aaron Rodgers. We're going to keep Aaron happy. Woody, Aaron Rodgers is like 34, 35 years old. He's at the back end of his career. He's not a young buck. So the decisions that you have made, and I can pretty much promise you that A-Rod has something to do with Saleh being gone. I mean, did you guys see the exchange with them on, was it Sunday Night Football? That was pretty crazy, right? Pretty cringe. Saleh goes in for the hug, the bro hug. A-Rod said, I want none of that. And it just made for a real awkward interaction between those two. Head coach, star quarterback on camera. You knew something wasn't right? And then, 3 weeks passed and we're here now. And it's funny in the NFL how week by week, everything's looking up. Or everything can crash and burn, right? So, was it Thursday night, the Jets played. Aaron Rodgers was throwing dimes. We was like, he's back. New York Jets fans was like, strike up the parade. They were ready to go to the Super Bowl. They were ready. Didn't work out that way. So now they lose a game, and then they lose one game. You fire them. And see, from a fan perspective, fans, they just want a chunk of meat to bite in. They want someone to take the blame. They want something to be done to make them feel better. They're not thinking about week 10, week 15 down the road. So you get rid of Saleh, which he wasn't even your biggest problem. You get rid of him. And then who's going to be the coach? And then you have a whole, we're only, in week 5, guys, going on to week 6. We still have a whole 11, 12 weeks of the season left. It's not going to end well for Aaron Rodgers' career. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have one of those careers where you say, man, he should have shut it down after the Green Bay situation. He should have shut it down. Because this is not going to end good. Woody Johnson is just drunk over there making crazy decisions. Pissed off. Like, Woody, you're not going to win. No time soon. And as crazy as it might seem, you could say that the Giants could be in a better situation than them. I mean, Daniel Jones has come to life a little bit, right? And he's young. And then you have a good coach over there. So, I mean, the outlook for them, it doesn't look good. It's nothing that I would, like I said, if back when all of this was going on, I thought that they could get to the playoffs. And I actually had a cousin of mine. He's an Aaron Rodgers fan. He doesn't really necessarily like the Jets. He's one of these guys that follows players and not teams. And I don't really like fans like that because I feel like it's okay to have a favorite player, right? I understand that. But don't base your being a fan of a team because a player is playing for them, right? Because I think that leaves a lot of people off the hook when things go bad, you know? It's like, oh, I like the Jets now because Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets, and then the Jets suck, and then you're like, oh, well, it wasn't because of my guy. Or, something like that, where I don't really like the Jets. I like Aaron Rodgers. Bullshit. Okay? So that's how I feel about that. But anyways, next situation, Davante Adams and the Las Vegas Raiders. Man. So, Mark Davis. It's not good. Las Vegas Raiders, the only good thing is the stadium, guys. That's the only good thing, and they drafted Byers from Georgia. That's it. That's about it. Everything with this team is bad. It's like spoiled milk. Everything that happens, something happens, they sign an impact player, you're like, oh, things are looking up. 3 months later, it's over. And you're left wondering, like, what the hell happened? No, and it's like Mark Davis can't get it right. He can't get it right. Okay? The Las Vegas Raiders, they have been making questionable decisions for years. We've seen it. Okay? They hired John Gruden. How does it work out for you? Now, when that happened, Gruden had been successful pretty much everywhere he had been, up until that point, right? He gets to the Raiders, flames out. Right? The Raiders go and hire Maylock as their general manager. He's never been a general manager for anybody. For most part, he's been in player operations and he calls the draft or he does coverage on the draft. You hire him to actually make your roster. Not good. Not good at all. You get Antonio Brown, generational talent. That was a crash and burn situation. Doesn't work out. You trade for Devontae Adams. First round picks are involved. And it's like the Raiders always give up first round picks. And then they have to trade that same guy in return to only receive a third round pick, a fourth round pick. Like, they're trying to trade Devontae Adams right now. The guy's 32 years old. He still can play, but he's past his prime. Like, he's past his prime. Right? And he's hurt. Is he hurt? Is he not? And the most that someone's willing to give up is a third round draft pick. That's the best you're going to get. I mean, if you were looking at Devontae 2 years ago, you probably could be like, I can get a 1. Possibly, But you're not getting a 1 now. Who's going to give you a 1 for Devontae Adams? You get him over. It's not just about him. It's his contract. It's the money that you're going to have to pay him to come over. It's how long is he going to stay? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. Okay? And I love the way Devontae Adams plays football. But seeing the guy, like, paying close attention to the guy, the Netflix special, The Receivers, pretty good. It gives you an intimate view of these guys. And one thing I can say, wasn't really liking Devontae too much. Kind of gives off a prima donna, attitude. A lot of bitching and moaning, And it's like, from far away, the picture is beautiful. But when you get up close to it, it's disgusting. So that's where I'm at with Devontae Adams. I don't know what becomes of his career. I feel that the Oakland Raiders will eventually trade him because they will figure out, hey, anything is better than nothing, right? And we're not winning the Super Bowl. We're not going to the playoffs. So why are we keeping him? Why are we paying this guy all this money? Let somebody else pay him. So I feel that they will end up trading him. The Las Vegas Raiders will not get what they want in compensation. And as far as what they're asking for in return for him. And I say that Devontae probably would be in the league maybe a year, maybe 2 more. And they're not going to be spectacular years. He'll probably give you above average production. Right? So these are the situations that we're talking about. These are the questions that we're asking ourselves about these particular guys and teams and franchises. So I think there's a big question mark on the future of these teams and these these particular players. And I think that, and I just think that a lot of more research needs to be done before you sign a player, trade for a player, and draft a player. I've played football at a high level. I've been around guys who think about the game 24/7. I've been around it. And to see some of these decisions that football guys make, man, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. The decisions that they make, and they perceive that this will be the best situation for the team. It's like, dude, you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired. You know? So, guys, I appreciate you spending this time with me, discussing these topics. You know, for sports analysis, interviews, anything sports, come to Inside the Locker Room with Reggie. I am Reggie Banks. Thank you, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe on the videos. Thank you guys for your support. See you next time.